Warning. This show features dark subjects which may be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Chaos Jar. I'm your announcer, and the loud and obnoxious one, J Wes Secord. Hey! Then over here we have our hosts, the Big Bag of Facts, Bad Ben.
Hey.
And as always, we are joined by our good friend, A.T. Token.
Hello.
I'm moving the microphone closer to him, because I'm louder. And that is Chaos Jar. If you would like to follow us, please do so at Twitter and Instagram at BA Chaos Jar. Wait, I think that's right.
At BA Chaos Jar.
Yeah, at BA Chaos. I always feel like there's more. And you can follow me on Twitter and send me bunch of questions at I'm glad you asked _. Don't forget, we are now on Facebook with a brand new page title, Chaos Jar Podcast. Plus, we're also on YouTube for your friends who are not podcast savvy. And lastly, you can become a patron at patreon.com/chaosjar. And you know what? If you donate, you will get early access to our bonus episodes, The Overflow. And you can even have access to the current ones that have been released already. Just head over to patreon.com/chaosjar. Like, subscribe, rate, and review, and all the good stuff. Please see bottom for show notes.
For show notes.
So, what's going in the jar today, Ben?
So today we're going to talk about black-eyed children.
Well, I didn't think I didn't realize we were going into more racist episodes.
Presumably Black Sclera, as opposed to...
We're talking about black-eyed children.
Okay. So, like, iris everything? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it.
You shouldn't have said more. You should have just continued to stay at his face. Black-eyed children. They only see black people.
Wow.
Is that how the South explains mass murders?
No. Because they only see them. It doesn't necessarily mean they kill them. Or enslave them. Or any other bad part of black history.
Mm.
All right. So, black-eyed children. You guys have basically self-explained it. We're all over. See you later.
All done. This has been Chaos Jar.
Anyways. So, what would you do if you were just sitting in your living room and all of a sudden there was a knock at the door, and when you went there, there was two little children, roughly between the ages of 6 and 16.
Pretty wide range there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the older one asks you in a really monotone voice, like there's just something really off about them, and they're both looking down, very monotone, almost as if he doesn't have any breath. Like, just not breathing, just saying words.
What the fuck does he ask me?
And he asks you if he can come inside because he needs to use the washroom, or he needs to make a phone call.
No.
Probably. They're just kids.
Well, they have a cell phone.
Really shy and stuff.
But what's the era?
Current era.
Yeah, you got a cell phone. Get to it.
So
yeah, here's my phone. Take it. What's your mommy's number?
So
might not know numbers now.
This is kind of what set the precedent for black-eyed children, like spottings and sightings. But it's what became very viral.
I'm amazed you're holding it together.
I know. There's that one look where he smiled and he didn't, and he's just like, nope, just don't let him do it.
So this was sent through an email mailing list by Brian Bethel, who was a journalist from Abilene, Texas, in 1996. And I'm going to read it verbatim because it's pretty interesting how he wrote it. So, quote.
Whoa! He said the word quote!
So, I don't really know what I'd call this story if I was submitting it to a publication in Fate or something of its ilk. Quotation marks, Brian versus the evil, black-eyed, possibly vampiric or demonic, but at least no bloody normal kids. And quotation marks, doesn't have much of a ring to it. Shrug. I love that it's written in his email. Shrug. And then there's a happy face. But at least it's an accurate title. As so many things do, it all started out innocently.
No, wait, it's not accurate. It's got maybe in the title.
Yeah.
But that is the most accurate statement.
I guess.
In the whole title.
Maybe.
So, my internet service provider used to have offices in a shopping center before they moved their comparatively lush accommodations elsewhere. There was a drop box at the original location, and the monthly bill was due, and thus there, but for the grace of the net, I went. So basically, he would go and pay his internet bill like we all would at one of those drop boxes. Before.
We all pay them at drop boxes?
I remember doing things like this. I am not that old.
Wait.
I might be the oldest one here.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, in hindsight, I don't remember drop boxes, but I do remember having to go to the business location
and pay. Because internet banking wasn't a huge thing because the internet was still brand new, and this is 1996, so this is before the blow up of internet banking and stuff like that.
Well, it was 56K modems then.
Yeah.
We had to post our bills.
So
I don't even know what you just said.
he had to mail it in.
I don't even know what you meant.
Just like he mails in this performance.
Oh! You suck!
I did literally phone it in once, so fair enough.
It's true.
I remember that day. I was there.
I was not.
Yeah, I was not. So, back to the story here. It was about 9:30 p.m. when I left, which he's going to pay his internet bill awfully late. But from my relatively isolated apartment, it's about 10 to 15 minutes or so downtown. The population of Abilene is about 110,000 people. Right next to Camelot Communications' old location, which I'm guessing that's what his internet provider was called, is a $1.50 movie theater. You could go see a movie for $1.50. Like...
Those were the days.
Yeah. I still remember for the longest time my local movie theater had a cheap night where it was $4.20 to go see it, so you paid $4.20 to go see it. It was like a stoner marathon all the time. So at the time, the place was featuring a masterwork of modern films, Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
The first one was amazing.
Yep, that's what he's talking about. The first one. I drove by the theater on the way to the center proper and pulled into an empty parking space. Using the glow of the marquee to write out my check, I was startled to hear a knock on my driver's side window of my car. I looked over and saw two children staring at me from the street. I need to describe them with the one feature, parentheses, you can guess what it was, parentheses,
black-eyed children.
That I didn't realize until about halfway through the conversation.
I wonder if the "eyed" part was added later.
So, about halfway through the conversation was cleverly omitted. Both appeared to be in a semi-mystical stage of life children.
Life children?
Oh, sorry. Both appeared to be in that semi-mystical stage of life children.
Oh.
There's no comma.
But there clearly should be.
And he's a journalist. I'm just saying.
Life children.
Yeah, he's that semi-mystical stage, life children. So, into where you can't exactly tell their age. So I guess it's that age where you have a really hard time distinguishing what exactly.
Indeterminate age.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that post.
Yeah. And my initial impression is that they were somewhere between 10 and 14. So boy number 1 was the spokesman. Boy number 2 didn't speak the entire conversation, at least not in words.
Marionette.
So
no, he said not in words, which means, demonic type of voice. Right.
So
demon gurgle or whatever it is.
Speaking in tongues?
I did not say tongues. I said gurgling. You're not talking about cunnilingus here.
So boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover, hooded shirt with a sort of gray checked pattern and jeans. I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive covered and had curly medium-length brown hair. He exuded an air of quiet confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with traces of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. He was dressed in a similar fashion to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was a sort of pale orange. They didn't appear to be related, at least not directly. Oh, great, I thought. They're going to hit me up for money. And then the air changed. I've explained this before, but for the benefit of any lurkers out there, right before I experience something strange, there's a change in perception that comes about, which is described in the above manner. It's basically enough time to know it's too late. Happy face. So there I was, filling out the check in my car, which was still running, and in a sudden panic over the appearance of the 2 little boys, I was confused, but an overwhelming sense of fear and unearthliness rushed in nonetheless. The spokesman...
You need to pee.
I wonder if you just inhaled too hard.
He's parked up against a bunch of garbage cans and the carbon monoxide's coming in.
Their kids aren't even there. Yeah. He's just staring at a wall.
Nobody trusts my journalism.
So the spokesman smiled.
This is why there were no commas.
Yeah, he wrote this right after, and he's like, "Oh yeah." So the spokesman smiled, and the site is for some inexplicable reason. Inexplicable. There we go.
Wow.
Reason chilled my blood. I could feel my fight or flight in the responses kicking in. Something I knew instinctually was not right, but I didn't know what it possibly could be. I rolled down my window very, very slightly and asked, "Yes?" The spokesman smiled again, broader this time. His teeth were very, very white. "Hey, mister, what's up? We have a problem," he said. His voice was that of a young man, but his diction, quiet, calm, and something I couldn't put my finger on made me desire to flee. It made my desire to flee even greater. "You see, my friend and I wanted to see the film, but we forgot our money," he continued. "We need to go to our house to get it. Want to help us out?" Okay, journalists are required to talk to a lot of people, and that includes children. Holy crud. I've seen and spoken to a lot of them. I don't know why. There's something in my throat.
We're having some technical difficulties with our big bag of facts.
Yeah. So here's how that usually goes.
That was actually good. That was pretty good.
So here's how the conversations usually go with children. Mister, can I see that camera? I won't break it or anything, I promise. My dad has a camera, and he let me hold it sometimes, I guess, and I took pictures of my dog. It wasn't very good, because I got my finger in the way, and add in some sort of feet shuffling and/or body swaying, a very typical kid talking to a stranger response. In short, they were usually apologetic. People generally teach children to talk, that when they talk to adults, they're usually bothering them for one reason or another. And they should be at least polite.
It's deferential.
Yeah. This kid was no way fitting the mold. His command of language was incredible, and he showed no signs of fear. He spoke to me as if my help was a foregone conclusion. When he grinned, it was as if he was trying to say, I know something, and you're not going to like it. But the only way you're going to find out what it will be to do what I say. Well, was the best that I could reply to the offer. Now, this is where it gets strange. The quiet companion looked at the spokesman with a mixture of confusion and guilt on his face. He seemed in some ways shocked, not with his friend's brusque manner, but that I didn't immediately open the door. He eyed me nervously. The spokesman seemed to be a little perturbed too. I was still registering something wrong with both of them. Come on, mister, said the spokesman. Smooth as silk. Car salesman could learn something from this kid. Now we just want to go to our house, and we're just two little boys.
That's what two people who aren't little boys would say.
That's two norms and a coach.
Yeah. That really scared me. Something in the tone and diction again set off alarm bells. My mind was frantically trying to process what it was perceiving about the two figures that was, quote, wrong. It was all I could manage. I felt myself digging my fingernails into the steering wheel. What movie were you going to see? I finally asked. Mortal Kombat, of course, said the spokesman. The silent one nodded in affirmation, standing a few paces behind him. Oh, I said, and I stole a quick glance at the marquee, and at the clock in my car. Mortal Kombat had been playing for an hour, the last showing of the evening. So, the silent one looked increasingly nervous. I think he saw my glances and suspected that I might be detecting something was not above board. Come on, mister, let us in. We can't get in your car until you do, you know, the spokesman said soothingly. Just let us in, and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house. We locked eyes. To my horror, I realized my hand had strayed towards the door lock, which was engaged, and I was in the process of opening it. I pulled my hand away, probably a little too violently, but it did force me to look away from the children. I turned back. I offered weakly, and then my mind snapped into sharp focus. For the first time, I noticed their eyes. They were coal black. No pupil, no iris, just two staring orbs reflecting the red and white light of the marquee.
Oh, wait. Coal black is not reflective.
I know.
Journalist.
The way he wrote this is kind of odd as well. At that,
no commas.
Yeah. There was no commas for that little bit, and now there's commas and stuff. It's like he's sobered up.
Yeah. Because of the life children.
The mystical.
They're in that mystical stage called life children.
Ran into fairies.
So at that point, I know my expression betrayed me. The silent one had a look of horror on his face, in a combination that seemed to indicate A, the impossible just happened, and B, we've been found out. The spokesman, on the other hand, wore a mask of anger. His eyes glittered brightly in the half-light. Come on, mister, he said. We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun.
Just knives.
We don't have a gun.
That last statement scared the living hell out of me, because at this point his tone was plainly saying, we don't need a gun. He noticed my hand shooting down towards the gear shift, and the spokesman's final words contained an anger that was complete and whole, and yet contained some respect and some respects a tone of panic. We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in.
They're vampires.
Yeah. I ripped the car into reverse. Thank goodness no one was coming behind me, and tore out of the parking lot, noticed the boys in my peripheral vision, and stole a quick glance back. They were gone. The sidewalk by the theater was deserted. I drove home in a heightened state of panic. Had anyone attempted to stop me, I would have run on through and faced the consequences later. I bolted into my house, scanning all around, including the sky. What did I see? Maybe nothing. Maybe nothing more than a couple kids looking for a ride. And really funky contacts. Yeah, right. A friend suggested that they were vampires with that old let us in bit, and my compelled response to open the door. That and the we'll go see our mother thing. I'm not sure what they were, but here's an epilogue I find chilling. I talk about Chad a lot. He's still my best friend, my best ghost hunting companion, and an all-around cool guy. He recently moved to Amarillo, but at the time this happened was still living in San Angelo of Rampage. I don't know why he's included all this, but I called him and talked to him briefly. Well, this is a mailing list, so I think they all know each other.
Okay.
He had 2 female friends with him at the time, and both were professing some type of psychic ability. I started to tell him the story, leaving out the part of the black eyes for the kicker. One of the women who was on we were on speakerphone stopped me. These children have black eyes, right? She asked. I mean, all black? Yes. I said, he seems like he's a really eloquent speaker when he talks to people in public. Yeah. She said. One night last week, I had a dream about children with black eyes. They were outside my house wanting to be let in, but something was wrong with them. It took me a while to realize it was their eyes. I hadn't gotten as far as them wanting to come in. What did you do? I asked. Well, I kept the windows and the door and the windows locked. I knew if they came in, they would kill me. She paused. And they would have killed you too if you had let them into your car. So, from this extra long post, we have 3 unanswered questions. A, what did I see? B, what would have happened if I opened my car door? And C, why does Chad always get the cool psychic chicks? So, Brian is also really good friends with a man named John Northwood, who's a paranormal investigator and pagan coordinator in Oregon.
Good old pagan.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how they all run in the same circles, eh? Yeah. So, and Brian and John...
You never know.
Brian and John had not actually... John's not part of the mailing list, and he hadn't actually spoken to John about the interaction with the black-eyed children. But there was a conversation that was happening, and there's another person in this conversation. I guess it was like a group chat. That makes this conversation spine-chilling for Brian, who goes by Toth in the transcript.
Toth.
Yeah, Thoth. I'm not sure what that is, but
it almost sounds like Toph from Avatar, The Last Airbender.
You know, because that was out in 1996.
Yeah. Duh.
So, God of wisdom, writing, and hieroglyphics, science, magic, art, basically the Greek equivalent of Hermes.
All right. So,
you say Greek equivalent of Hermes?
Yeah, for Egyptian culture.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You mean the Egyptian equivalent to Hermes?
The Egyptian equivalent of the Greek god Hermes.
Yeah.
Yay, we're there. So,
I think you need a couple of commas.
The transcript begins. John. So do any of y'all really believe in ghosts? Or for that matter, kids with funny eyes? Shiver, never again in downtown Portland at night.
That's quite a broad scope.
I know. Do you guys believe in ghosts? Or, kids with funny eyes?
Yeah, you kids with
pink eyes.
All I can imagine is, at first, if somebody asked me that question, I would think of, people who have lazy eyes, or, any of my friends that have ever been, cross-eyed. I used to know this kid that was blind, and he had, white irises.
Yeah. And
that, all I mean is he would ask that question, and I would have been like, what do the two have in common?
Yeah, kids with funny eyes. Did you just look at a blind kid again?
Yeah.
Mixed up.
So, the other person in this conversation is Lycown. And so Lycown asks, kids with what? So, they had my reaction. I would have been like, what are you being rude?
That's unfair.
It's called a lazy eye. Leave them alone.
So, Toth, John, I do, and I believe in kids with funny eyes, too. Winky face.
Well, it wasn't a smile this time.
Yeah. Toth, did you see some? Nancy, well, I guess I believe in ghosts, but I have seen kids. With funny eyes. John, yes, a week ago, downtown Portland, about 23:30, so 11:30. Lycown, I believe in ghosts. Kids like the one from the Village of the Damned? Toth, indeed. Do tell, Master Northwood. Lycount, it was like a bunch of 6-year-olds with glowing white eyes. Toth, the kids he saw had black eyes, assuming, of course, they had eyes at all. Hellraiser, this is such a weird conversation. I remember that, Toth. I remember you telling it. So I love that he stated that he never told anybody about this other than his own personal friends, and like never had this discussion with John, but all of a sudden John's bringing it up and they're all like, oh, we remember that story from you. Like, you've obviously spoken about it in this chat before. Yes. So, Lycount, geez, Toth, it was most disturbing. Lycount, just regular kids with black eyes? I love how we were speculating on a different thing entirely, and then I never thought about the fact of, like, what if these kids just had, like, got punched in the face or something at one point? Like...
Your slower can bleed, but I've never heard of it drying. It would dry dark red, too, like brown red.
So I once fell onto a mug, and the mug hit me in the eye, and it cut it. And so it was a huge scab around my eyes. It was literally the shape of a mug. It was like a perfect ring around my eye. And it was black, like really.
Your sclera wouldn't go black.
No.
And it wouldn't be reflected.
No, that's the joke, is the term of black eye is the same thing as a shiner, right?
Yeah.
So, kids with black eyes. Like,
yeah.
Why aren't you
Kids
helping?
don't fight.
Were they abused by their father?
So John Northwood, I was in downtown Portland, Oregon, of course, after a seminar series on software development. I grabbed a bite of dinner.
Portland already.
Yeah, I grabbed a bite of dinner around 10 p.m. and when I left, it was about 11-ish. I grabbed the bite of dinner around 10 p.m. and when I left, it was about 11-ish. Why did you repeat yourself in the same conversation? I grabbed this transcript and I did read through it originally, and it didn't show all these things, but I think I just browsed through it and was like,
quick scan.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I'd gotten into my car, locked and belted up, and just started the engine when someone tapped on my window. Top. This sounds incredibly familiar, John. Because that's Brian.
Yeah.
John Northwood.
I knew that was Brian.
I was in an above-ground garage on the 3rd floor, and I wasn't too freaked out. There was good lighting and still some people around. It was one of the guys from the conference, so I rolled my window down and asked him what was up. He wanted to ride around the block a few times, and he was freaked out about who was standing outside of his car. I figured, so sue me, that it was Portland, like one of Portland's homeless or some punker kids. So being a good Samaritan, I let him in and we took off.
Then he killed me.
We drove his car. We drove by his car, and there were 3 kids around it, 2 boys and a girl. The girl was weird, just freaky, clothes and hair and makeup, gothamatic. The 2 kids were, I don't know, just scary as shit. Lycount, that's goth for you. How old roughly? John. She was probably about 14 or 15. The oldest boy was probably about 14-ish, and the youngest was between 10 and 12. She looked bored and was smoking.
Youngest was in that mystical age of life children.
John, she looked bored and was smoking a cigarette, and the 2 were just leaning against the car. They looked way too intense for kids. All I can think is these are a bunch of fucking punk kids, really just punked up kids who are trying to mess with people, because the way he's describing it doesn't sound anything like the freaky black
the first 2 where
the outcast in high school.
Exactly.
They were
the first 2. They genuinely were sitting there, and they had really weird, almost mesmeric behavior. Is that a word? Mesmeric?
Yeah, mesmerizing.
Mesmerizing behavior, and
you felt a compulsion, but also fear. These are, and they had slight respect, but these kids just fucking smoking a cigarette and leaning against the guy's car, and again too, I'm this kind of person that. So there's this joke that came out one time where it was how many first graders? How many third graders do you think it would take to take you down in a fight? And all I remember was like thinking about it, being like, well, it depends on how hard I kick the first one. Like,
punch it like
yeah, and if you kick them hard enough, you'll hit the other ones.
I didn't realize children were basically dominoes.
I mean, projectile.
Yeah, and I'm a pretty big guy. I could probably pick one or two up and just start chucking them or beating the other ones with them. Like
the 3-year-old or grade 3 person.
Yeah,
club.
Just bam, bam, bam.
Wielding.
And that's got a
I didn't know you had that feat.
And that's like a psychological warfare on its own, because he just picked one of us up and beat us with them. And I love that he's trying to tell this spine-chilling story, and we're like completely tearing it apart. Like,
I just can't get the image of you picking up like 13-year-olds.
It's like that meme on Facebook where you when you're so mad you have to beat one motherfucker with another motherfucker.
Did you ever watch Jackie Chan Adventures?
Yes.
All I can think of is Toru. Like just this giant motherfucking guy. He picks up the kid by the leg. This kid is like nothing.
Yep. So John. Anyway, I started itching behind. I started itching behind my eye.
Itching behind your eye?
Yeah, behind my eye. Like, I really needed to look at them, so, like an ass, I slowed down. Big mistakes.
So, wait. I thought about the kid that you kicked, and somehow it progressed, and I actually watched the kid go through a field goal in my head.
Go!
And that's how I got signed to the NFL.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
All right. So, big mistake. The two boys sauntered over, and the girl stayed against the car. The eldest was on Doug's side, the guy from the seminar, and the youngest was on mine. I made sure the doors were locked. I love electronic locks. And that's why they were standing around his car. The young one said, "It's scary out there all alone. We just wanted a ride home." You're outside of a motherfucker's car smoking a cigarette, and you're talking about how it's scary out? Like...
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Did you see the goth chick with the cigarettes?
So, so that was the young one. And then the eldest one said, "You promised you'd help us out." And Doug said, "I don't even know you." By this time, I was really on edge. I felt like I was caught between throwing up and jazzing. What? Adrenaline does that to me. Adrenaline makes him want to puke. Or pull out a saxophone? Like...
Could have been worse. Could have been a fear boner.
I like... or jazzing? What?
Yeah.
Fear boner.
Yeah.
I just...
Jazz hands.
Yeah. I'm super scared and super pumped up.
Jinkies.
Fun fact. Slang verb for jazzing is to exaggerate or lie.
Okay. So.
Jazz.
That's all I was thinking was Doug there pulls out a fucking bass guitar.
I love you almost did Cotton Eye Joe.
I think I might have been right. The only verb is to play in the style of jazz, fair enough, or to have sexual intercourse with.
What?
What?
That's apparently what it's been used for historically.
I was all pumped up on adrenaline, so I either was gonna puke or fuck these kids.
Or Doug.
Doug, you got in the wrong car.
Man, these kids are really creepy.
You want to know?
I want to see creepy.
You want to get rid of these creepy kids? We got to make sure that they see something they didn't want to see.
What?
Jazz. You fucking wrong out the word jazz. So
all of a sudden, Doug said he was getting out of the car. I don't blame him. And I told him not to.
He might have got jazz.
As soon as he reached the handle, the two kids, I don't know how to say this right, they all of a sudden looked a lot older. Like, how? Like,
that part I think I can understand. It might be like a maturity thing in the face.
I see. Or more of an understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, like
intentions.
sometimes, and sometimes they just randomly get wrinkles for no reason.
So their faces were somewhat drawn.
Yes, children are the equivalent of my balls.
Their faces were somewhat drawn, and their eyes were solid black, edge to edge, no pupil, no iris, nothing. Just a liquid black pool. I was about to wet myself.
From all the jazzing.
Yeah. Slapped the car into reverse and burned rubber, backing about 60 feet away. I love the slapstick.
You ever see that I saw it on TikTok originally, but it's like this guy, he's leaning against his own car, and he's like, "Hey, baby, how about you take off that shirt and get into my..." Or no. Oh, yeah, I think it was like, "Why don't you take off my shirt, or take off your shirt and come and climb into Papa's new whip?" And he, like, slaps his car. She's like, "You can't talk to people that way." "He's talking to me, sweetie." All I can imagine is him and his comment about getting to Papa's new whip.
Yeah.
Like, why is it a whip?
Oh my god. So they started running after the car, so I spun around on one of the support struts and we took off. I kid you not, I was convinced they were going to get a hold of the car. I was going to die, and not in anything approaching a pleasant fashion.
Plus, I just jazzed up.
So hold on. There's a pleasant way to die?
I mean, drug-fueled sex orgy?
That's what jazzing is. So, anyway, the oldest one was in the bottom of the garage when we came out. So they jumped and almost made it to my side door. Like how preservation instinct prevails yet again. Okay. I don't like this person, but anyways, John, we'd gone down to the third floor, about 30-ish, maybe 30-ish 5 feet around the ramp. He'd beaten us down the stairs and onto the sidewalk. Anyway, we left him at the corner, and I turned to look, and nothing. He was gone. Doug was just about passed out, probably because he jazzed to death. But all of a sudden, the feeling of menace left. Like how I've never heard of a sighting of those entities in human bodies, though I've had my speculation on the fact it could happen. Hellraiser, did you ever go back there? John, we went back there about 10 minutes later. Nobody was around his car. He got out, got in his car, and drove home. He was passed the fuck out. I'm just saying, I'm not letting that motherfucker drive after 10 minutes. Like,
yeah, especially after all that much jazzing.
Yeah. He said that he'd had met the young one earlier in the evening and had said he'd take him home, had even given him a short ride in his car to the seminar and told him to wait. Apparently, though, the older brother scared him, so he felt all bets were off. So this is fucking Doug's fault. Doug gave them a ride in his car.
Wow, Doug.
So apparently when they get in your car, they turn...
lied, and he totally did promise.
Yeah, so apparently when they get in your car after they've done what you've invited them into or whatever, they go from being polite and courteous to fucking jackasses who smoke around your car. Like,
like freeloading friends.
Yeah. So I was behind him about 45 feet, and the feeling of menace hit again. At that moment, Doug misjudged going across the intersection in a yellow light, and his car was hit by a truck. He was killed instantly. How convenient. I gave the police report, and the whole time felt really freaked out and really exposed.
Tell me they did a tox report on this guy.
I got in my car. I got back into my car, locked the door, and waited, and I saw the kids again, about 2 blocks away. I'm not making this up. I'm not thinking they're vampires or something like that. But they weren't as pale, they weren't as skinny, and they felt slightly more menacing. I left quickly. My only concern now is that this upcoming Wednesday, I'm going back into that area for another seminar, and I won't be leaving until about 9:30. I'm really freaked out, guys. So, what are the black-eyed children?
Well, a part of it sounds like they're some sort of weird vampire. But I don't think they are vampires. They do have that you need to invite me in type of thing.
Yeah, they need to be invited along.
But I think it seems like they feed off tragedy. Because so far, what happened to Doug is that he died in a car accident, and then they seemed well-fed. Yeah.
So, black-eyed children are described on a lot of sites, and this is basically me combining everything together. Combinating. They are mysterious creatures resembling kids between the ages of 6 and 16. Like I said, they can appear between those ages. They appear normally at night. They speak with a monotone and breathless voice. So, almost like they don't breathe. They just speak.
Mister? Wait, what would that sound like? A breathless voice.
That's what I have a hard time. Monotone, breathless. So,
monotone.
Almost like they're not inhaling.
Hello, sir. Can I have some help? But that still seems breathless.
Yeah.
Even robots have kind of a breathy sound.
Yeah, because you have to have a vibration, so in order to do that, you have to move air.
Yeah, that seems weird.
So they approach people in their cars or by knocking on doors with the request to make a phone call, get a ride home, wait for their rides to show up, get something to eat, or use the bathroom. They have a sophisticated vocabulary beyond their youth. They are always accompanied by a feeling of compulsion. They also feel off from their mannerisms, despite the feeling of compulsion. They also bring on high anxiety or a looming feeling of dread.
Seems to be misread expectations.
Yeah, this sometimes breaks that trance of compulsion that victims feel. They are noted to have black eyes. That's all in all tales. They all have it.
What?
I know.
Holy fucking shit.
Theories on what they are vary wildly. Some people believe they are vampires, hence the need to be invited inside. Others believe that they are extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings. And an odd theory is that they are ghosts or demons.
Is that odder than aliens?
Yeah, honestly, aliens seems like, in general, an odder theory than demons.
To me, it seems kind of on the fence about any one of them. I feel that vampires is the most far off, but at the same time, they do seem to feed off of things.
I mean, if that's the 3 options, yeah, fine.
Well, vampire is... I know vampires have kind of a specific type of feeding, but vampires, the term vampire just means it feeds off something, but in general, some sort of life from another being. But, like, vampires themselves are a fictitious monster. Like, there isn't a lore to them. There isn't a mythology to them.
Vampires are actually like a more modern build off of older mythological creatures. So, like, we'll end up talking about, like, some of the different ones. Like, the Kappa is considered a vampire.
What?
Yeah, because it does drain life forces, and it drains life forces out of the feet of their victim.
I guess some of them do. The Kappa is a little bit of a weird one, though. Because the Kappa is all over the place. Like, I remember reading about how the Kappa was also specifically ate children, and how you could only stop him because in Japanese culture it's about being polite. So if you make him bow and pour the water out of his head, he's gonna be like, "Oh shit, I can't move till someone fills this up again." Yeah,
and there's other creatures like Romania has its own creatures. The Strigoi, that's what it is. So they have Strigoi, which are dead, like the dead rise, and they come and they feed off the life energy of their leftover, of like their surviving family members.
Ooh, I like that.
And so in Romanian culture, that's why they behead and burn the body.
Okay. Oh. Which explains why part of the vampire lore is removing the head and stuffing garlic down the throat.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
would burning the whole thing not work then?
Depends. There's, like, lots of different versions of lore, and, like, vampires themselves have become an incredible convolution of different types of lore depending on the story. Yeah.
All I know is fire kills all.
Not always.
Nope.
Zombies can go around on fire for a while.
Yeah, you can melt fires. Add more fire.
Add more fire.
Add more fire. AT token 2021.
Add enough, you end up a laser. So
fire is the solution to all.
Yeah.
So these beings, though, the black-eyed children, they went viral into February of 2013 when Weekly Strange, which is like a web show, put out a 2-minute video episode based off of them. So I don't have the video because it is hard to find, but apparently this started this huge spike after 2013 of sightings of these things.
Now, the one thing I will say about them, going back to, you said they feed on people, but we never actually had confirmation they fed on people.
Yeah.
It just
appeared.
Yeah. It appeared as though they fed on.
They could also be like an omen, like when we do talk about the Mothman seems to show up before disasters. Mm-hmm. And that might be the thing, is that they want to get in, and the reason why you're feeling the overwhelming dread is because you're like something bad is going to happen to you, and they want to help you get away from that bad thing. So that's why when he got hit by the truck, they were there because they were trying to save him.
See, I think they're malicious, though.
Yeah, you said they'd feed off the tragedy.
Well, no, that was the theory. But regardless, I still think that they're malicious just because of the first story with the two kids and how the older one got angry.
He got quite aggressive there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that guy survived. So, like,
that's true.
For the most part, something bad happening means they had to have gotten in the car.
And when he did let him in.
Yeah, he'd already let the young kid in. So when he drove his buddy back to the car, the kid was probably already in the car.
Okay, so another mass sighting of a black-eyed child occurred in Staffordville, England in 2014. A pub called the Four Crosses Inn was put up for sale. However, the price of the pub was super cheap for a building with 10 bedrooms, a bar, and a restaurant. Within, it was at £325,000. So it is reported that the price is because nobody would buy it due to the haunting of numerous spirits within, including a black-eyed little girl. So the pub is located in Cannock Chase. It's like a scenic area within Staffordshire.
Okay.
And
those are all words I understand.
Yeah, it has a lot of high traffic because of the scenic nature around it.
Country setting.
Yeah, Lee Brickley,
I understand all those words.
Lee Brickley, who published a collection of paranormal accounts into books and on a website, decided to investigate this little girl after receiving accounts that coincided with accounts also sent to him of a black-eyed little girl haunting Canuck Chase in 1980s. So he's trying to link sightings of this little black-eyed little girl all the way back to the 1980s. This is the account from a shocked woman. Alerted by what sounded like screams, a shocked woman came across the wandering, sightless specter while walking in Birches Valley. We instantly started running towards the noise, she said. We couldn't find the child anywhere, and so we stopped to catch our breath. That's when I turned around and saw a girl who stood behind me, no more than 10 years old, and her hands over her eyes. It was as if she was waiting for a birthday cake. I asked if she was okay, and if she had been the one screaming. She put her arms down to her side and opened her eyes. That's when I saw that they were completely black. No iris, no white, nothing. I jumped back, grabbed my daughter, and when I looked again, the child was gone. It was so strange. Lee had been told an account by his aunt as well that in summer of 1982, my aunt was 18 years old. She and her friends would often meet in Canuck Chase. In the evening time, probably...
They cannot chase there.
Cannot chase, yeah. And probably in much the same way as many teenagers still do today. One evening, just before dark, she heard a little girl frantically shouting for help. Rushing to the sound, she stumbled upon a dirt track and caught sight of the little girl, who was about 6 years old, running in the opposite direction. When my aunt caught up, the girl turned around and looked her in the eyes, and then ran off into the dark woodland. Her eyes were completely black, with no traces of white. There was a police search, but to no avail. At the time, no one had any reason to believe anything paranormal was going on. The girl certainly appeared to be of flesh and blood. Lee put forward that there are two theories. The child is linked to the Cornovi, who are a Celtic tribe known for their blood sacrifices, and I looked it up, and they're actually linked to 3 tribes in England, like 3 Celtic tribes of different people. It's weird. The others that we're dealing with some kind of mass hallucination. Some substance has been making people see this apparition. There were all kinds of weird covert military stuff that happened in the area over the years, and there still could be. But something for that is that can it really persist for over 40 years? Which it could if it was something
that's stuck in the ground or in the water. Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Most chemicals that affect a human won't last that long. So
I couldn't find this story's source itself in any of my other ones. I'll go through the other recent encounters that I have written down, but there is a story of a couple that let these black-eyed children in, and they had asked to just use the washroom. And when they got in...
They left the floor.
No, when they got in... that was it. It was a terrible thing. Killed everybody because the floater was just there. But no, when they got in, they... only stayed for roughly about 10 minutes and then stated that their mother had arrived and they left, but there was no car outside. And then as soon as they left, the husband collapsed, and it turned out that he had brain cancer for, he had very, very advanced stage of brain cancer, but he had recently gone for a checkup and actually had something done, and there was no sign of a tumor. So a tumor just appeared. So it kind of sticks to your malicious intent that they cause stuff to try and break these. But the more the sightings I have are on November 19th, 1992, a man was watching Evil Dead while his wife and children were sound asleep in the room upstairs. I love it was the Evil Dead.
Yeah, because that was an important part of the story.
Yeah.
There's Blake in the background going, that was the most important part!
Yeah. It was about 1:30 a.m., and he decided to head to bed after the movie was over. Suddenly, there was a loud pounding on his front door, and what stood behind the door would change his life forever. There stood a boy and a girl, 8 and 11 respectively, who never looked up, were standing barefoot in the Michigan winter, which kind of goes back to Brian's story. He never saw their shoes, so maybe they were barefoot. and it's Michigan winter, so that's kind of disturbing.
Well, the ground is the coldest part, right?
Yeah.
Is that a cold place?
So it's not the tropical climate of Canada Town, USA, but
I'm not the person to ask, unfortunately.
so despite his anger, the man allowed the children to enter and allowed them to use the phone. But when he went to lend them the phone, they were suddenly gone. In the dead silence, he heard the first scream coming from the upstairs bedrooms. When the man reached his wife's room, he was met by a devastating sight. His wife was in a pool of blood, terrifying sounds of bone snapping, flesh ripping, and he saw the bare feet children who had just left his home.
Well, that's a concern.
Yeah, before he could act, the bare feet children moved swiftly into his kids' rooms and locked the door. Despite the man's best efforts, he could not help his children and stood helplessly by the door. The act was done. The door slowly creaked open, and there stood the barefoot children covered in blood. They stood defiantly with awful grins and eyes completely black, like the devil himself. There's no, facts behind that story, so I have a hard time with that one. And if it is a real thing, I think he just killed his family.
Yeah, that does sound like a... Hey, Evil Dead was a great movie to reenact.
Let's just kill them all.
Dead before dawn.
Yeah. So, can you imagine trying to explain that to the police? So what happened to your wife and family? Well, I let these two black-eyed kids in my house.
They just stopped him at the word black.
Yeah. So we're looking for a black man.
Coke on him.
Oh, and that was the right time for when they did that too, wasn't it? Oh.
So on March 17th, 2008, a 12-year-old boy had a bone-chilling experience in an outlet parking lot.
I thought you were going to say a bone.
Yeah. He had a bone to pick with these things. And then, no. While waiting in his mother's truck for his mother to finish getting a haircut, she left the kid in the truck. Well, he's 12, I guess.
Yeah, but haircuts for women can take hours.
Yeah.
Haircuts for a lot of different people can take for hours.
Fair enough.
So,
I only have that one experience. So.
He saw a boy walking across the parking lot and thinking it was a friend from school. The boy banged on the window until the other boy turned. Realizing it was not his friend, the boy in the truck watched in confusion as the strange kid walked up, stared through the window. The boy caught one glance of the other boy's solid black eyes. I wish they would have given us a name, because this is really fucking getting confusing with the boy and the boy.
The boy and the boy.
And knew he was staring into the face of evil. "You must let me in," the black-eyed boy demanded. Panicked, the boy in the car...
Why did you say him like he was a rugged, dude in his 30s?
Yeah.
You must let me in, boy. like fucking Kratos in the new God of War game. Boy, open the door, boy.
So, panicked, the boy in the car crouched under the glove compartment. After a stop, I love that that's the solution. I'll just get away from you.
I remember when they used to teach kids that if there's a bomb strike, to get under your couch,
there's
get under the desk.
There's a nuclear strike, duck and cover.
Get under the timber. That won't be a problem.
Yeah. So, panicked, the boy crouched under the glove compartment. After several minutes, the black-eyed boy finally disappeared, and the boy's mother returned to the truck. She informed her son that the black-eyed child had come into the salon, demanding the keys to her vehicle. Can you imagine?
Bitch, give me your keys.
I need the keys. I need the keys to your car.
Give me.
Give me the goddamn keys to your car.
No, it's more like, woman, give me your goddamn keys.
I must get the boy in your car.
I must get boy in car.
So, thankfully, the boy's mother did not give in. Because, that would just be weird to be like, okay, kid, here you go.
Yeah, free truck for you. Go read that thing. I didn't like that kid anyway.
Yeah.
12 years of investment.
But not even just that. She's in a salon. How do you know that is exactly the person you're looking for?
Well, that's I think part of the creep factor.
Also,
Yeah.
some women's salon only host one person at a time.
But he's at an outlet mall.
Yeah, so if it's not your appointment, you can wander around the mall.
But he's at an outlet mall waiting for his... Like, that means there's several stores.
Yeah. Is that unreasonable?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He knew exactly where to go.
He knew to go into the salon
Yeah.
without any information.
Oh, from the boy, yeah.
Yeah. So, in 2010, a man known as Noetic... I don't know why.
Noetic?
Yeah, Noetic. Noetic.
Kind of like poetic.
Noetic. Noetic.
Noetic?
Noetic. Anyway,
Oh, how's it going?
encountered two black-eyed teenagers outside his place of work.
Oh, look at these strange kids. They're so strange. Look at their eyes. They're so black. I can see a black mirror in them. Oh, is that what that show is about? I never watched it. Somehow this transitioned into a very racist, East Indian accent, and I apologize for... No, it started Swedish.
Okay,
Yeah, he started off as a Swede and then turned into like
Then
a
just-
Swedish.
You marched across Europe, you hit Dutch, and then you,
Yeah, like,
then you went Indian.
I totally just started transitioning.
What I love is that I'm just picturing a Swedish man who grew up in India.
What color is it?
Honestly, I like thinking about the fact that it was a Swedish man who just slowly transformed into these.
It just slowly Animorphs is real.
Yes,
Ian Michael Jackson.
because East Indian people are the animals you morph into. Thank you, Ben.
No, you need DNA. Yeah. Jesus.
Wow, that was an unexpected
They
reference.
transformed into other in the books. They transformed into other people too. Like,
I did not know that.
yes, they did. Especially after they revealed their identities to everybody and the war kicked off, then they had to start like basically morphing into other people to hide. But yeah, that's a tale for another time.
God,
The book series got dark.
Yeah, like his parents get slaughtered. It gets really dark.
how many books?
There's 51 books in the main series, and
Never
then
mind.
there was
And we're done.
and then there was 7 megamorphs, which is like extended stories, and then there's also Chronicles, which is like the Olympus Chronicle, Hork-Bajir Chronicle, all that kind of stuff. I had all the books. I was a huge fan.
That's too many. I can barely get through the books I have.
Audiobook? Yeah, I'm gonna have it.
That's still 51 audiobooks.
So, anyways,
Plus
Noetic.
extended universe.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Noetic here.
Book.
He was leaving his place of work and saw the two black-eyed teenagers, and it was an ordinary July night in Ohio. So he's in Ohio, and it was in the middle of the night shift. So, craving a cigarette, Noetic stepped outside of the building and noticed the two teenage boys across the street. And as he smoked, he realized the boys were staring at him. Weary, Noetic returned to the safety of his cubicle and tried to refocus on his work, only to see through the security cameras that the boys had appeared in front of his building, motioning for him to come outside. That's a little weird.
The security camera?
Yeah, I'm guessing he's a security officer.
With cute? Yeah, probably.
So, fed up, Noetic went to the door, contemplating whether or not he should call the police. As if they read his minds, the boys insisted that such an action was unnecessary. All they needed to use was the phone. Noetic refused. He watched in horror as the two boys continued to stare up at the security camera, and then one of the boys ventured to the back of the building, watching the cameras as though they could see what Noetic was doing. With frayed nerves, Noetic contacted the police, watching the teenagers on the video feed the entire time. When the officer arrived at the scene, he could not locate the teenagers anywhere, and despite the fact that Noetic never tore his eyes away from the video feed. So they just vanished?
Well, the video feed would have been recorded, surely.
Yeah. So in November 2012...
Wait, that's it? There's no follow-up?
No.
Ugh.
So in early November 2012, a woman was up late watching a movie.
A woman
Was up late watching a movie with her cat, because,
Oh, okay, Mr. Pussy Wickers. You're...
Pussy Wickers.
We're gonna watch The Evil Dead 2 tonight.
Mickey Mouse has a cat.
That wasn't Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse is up here.
So the cat had leapt onto her lap, and that's why it was watching the movie with her, but the woman was stunned as she
that was necessary to explain.
Apparently this is in the thing. The woman was left stunned as she followed her cat into the living room. Oh, that's what it is. The cat leapt off her lap all of a sudden. And so she followed the cat into the laundry room, and the cat refused to leave the spot between the machines. Suddenly, the woman heard knocks on her door and figured it was late trick-or-treaters. This is November 2012.
That's quite late.
I'm a day or two late, trick-or-treat, lady.
I just came out of a coma.
Yeah.
Candy.
Trick-or-treat, motherfucker. I need trick-or-treat. I need candy for the boy.
So, when she opened the door, the woman was met with 2 children, a boy and a girl. However, there's something strange about these children. I wonder what it was. Who just stood there, looking into her house, not wearing any costumes or holding any buckets. No, because it's not fucking Halloween. It's November now. The boy suddenly asked the woman if her cat left, which aroused concerns with the woman. This is written so weird. Then the girl whispered to the woman, "We need to get inside." The boy was staring at her and grinning. Feeling fearful, she noticed that their eyes were completely black. The woman shut the door and called the police. The police found only footprints, which led into the forest behind the woman's home. It wasn't until months later that the woman found a makeshift bed in her gardening shed. So these are homeless kids. And I'd be scared too if some little girl, if at first they talked about my cat, and I'm already freaked out because now I know you've been looking into my house, and all of a sudden the little girl's just like, "We need to get inside." No consent. Consent. So, January 2016, a woman in Vermont had made a tragic mistake by letting them into her home. There was a belligerent blizzard. There was a blizzard raging outside. When she heard a faint knock on the door, a boy and a girl stood there, shivering, begging to use their phone because they got kicked out of the gardening shed.
Somehow I don't know if the shed was heated, so.
So, unnerved by their presence, the woman nevertheless let them inside to retrieve her phone. After the children walked into the light of the family room, the woman realized that their eyes were completely black. As she stared at them in horror. Her husband's nose began to bleed. At the same time, the power suddenly went out. After what felt like an eternity, the children spoke in unison, saying their parents had arrived. All I can think is, do you see these kids have black eyes and then your fucking power goes out? And then there's a few moments of silence, and then all of a sudden they together and just like, "Oh, mom and dad are here," and then leave.
Mom and dad are home.
Yeah.
What if they are aliens?
Aliens?
Yeah, aliens. What if they are aliens? And the fact that they're always waiting for mom and dad or their parents to come is because they're actually waiting for their ship or their mothership or whatever.
Well,
and the reason bad stuff happens around them is because the interference of the ship always causes issues like that to happen within the vicinity.
So the woman watched as the two quietly left her house, entered a nondescript black car with a man in a suit. It's the fucking Men in Black.
I was gonna say Slenderman, but
I love the thought of Slenderman in a. Did I ever tell you? Okay. Side note. Did I ever tell you about the time that I went camping with Slenderman?
I'm not sure if you did.
So, I went on this camping trip, and we decided that we were gonna do some creepy things in the bush because back home, when we went camping, we would like record things sometimes.
That was a weird sentence.
I know.
We're going to do some creepy things in the bush.
We wanted to. What I mean is more like a horror thing, and at the time, Slender Man was all the rage.
Yeah.
So I built this like Slenderman mannequin with my buddy Brian. And it was funny because when I put him in my truck, he actually looked like a passenger sitting in my car, or like in my truck. Well, so I decided to store him in my tent. And the head just happened to like peek out of my bag properly, and it was like the upper torso of the thing, so like the suit and tie and stuff. Well, some kids from the other part, like the other part of the camping lot, decided to come over and mess with our stuff, and they started stealing stuff out of my friend's tents. And I was sleeping, and then all of a sudden I hear the zipper on my tent open, and then all I hear is, "Holy fuck!" and run off. And all I hear is, "Fucking Slenderman's in there, guys! Fucking!" And you just hear him running off. And so all I ever thought about was the fact that my tent didn't get robbed because they thought Slenderman was in my fucking tent.
I hope they listen to this and be like, "Oh, I feel so
that motherfucker." Anyways,
yeah, but I like the idea that it's Slenderman.
Yeah.
In fact, now that actually makes more sense. What happens to the children that Slenderman takes away? He turns them into black-eyed children.
That's true. That's a very good transition.
Whoa!
So, one evening, a recluse...
That's even necessary.
So one evening, a recluse living in British Columbia decided he would to see a scary flick at the local movie theater. There's so much 90s lingo in this.
A scary flick.
Scary flick. Anyways, it
was a horror flick.
Already on the edge because of the film, he leapt from his chair when he heard a knock on his door late at night.
From the corner of his eye, he saw Shia LaBeouf.
Cannibal killer Shia LaBeouf.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
So with each step that he took towards his door, I love that there's so much like trying to build the tension with this, but the man felt a sense of dread coming down his spine. I don't think there was dread.
It's called a chill, motherfucker.
Yeah. So, nevertheless, something compelled him to open the door, and there stood a beautiful teenage girl. What?
Why did it specify beautiful?
Yeah, literally beautiful is in this. The man guessed she was 6 feet tall, had beautiful blonde hair. "May I enter the premises?" the girl asked, looking at the man with solid black eyes, horrified by what he saw. Originally, she was beautiful. Now he's horrified. The man... Hold on. I either have to puke or jazz.
He looked in horror. She had pure black eyes. Jazz hands! Oh my god. I'm keeping that.
So horrified by what he saw, the man screamed and slammed the door in her face. He was... You all couldn't see that, but jazz hands as he's pretending to slam a door. Oh, that hurts.
My face hurts.
I just love the idea of him screaming and being, "Oh!" And then you added the jazz hands. And he went and threw up. That's the only way you can get rid of the jazz hands after that. You have to puke it out.
Oh, my face hurts so much.
So He marched to his bedroom, pulled out a gun. This seems a little excessive.
I love he
Like-
marched too.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know why.
He grabbed the gun.
All I can imagine is he's slam the door and then bup, 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 bup. This will take care of her.
This person who's done nothing but ask something politely.
And then he sat in a chair in the corner until morning. Like, what? You're sitting there being like, okay, there's a girl out there, pitch black eyes. She's really gorgeous, but very scary. I just jazz hand slammed. And then he grabs a gun and he's sitting in his bedroom in the corner. Like, you can at least sit on your fucking bed. Like, just sit, like...
No, because then you fall asleep, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to... That's why they're always sitting in a chair.
You need to be as uncomfortable as possible to keep the focus. And then he just sits there till morning and with the gun. Like, all I imagine is him being there, like, freaking out and being like, I'll get her. Like...
Yeah, his hand in gun.
I gotta remember that this is a radio show. I'm miming holding a gun, but instead of holding the actual trigger, I'm jazz handing.
Yeah, it makes it look like you're playing guitar. That's how he's keeping himself awake.
The power of rock.
Playing Cotton Eye Joe. Anyways,
It's the only way I can stay awake.
hours later, the man went to retrieve his mail, because that's definitely a thing I'm thinking about. Like, and the Black Eye team was nowhere to be found, but the word "soon" was etched into his front door. Okay.
Black Eyed Teen sounds like a band.
Yeah.
The Black Eyed Teens.
So anyways, they're like...
That just sounds like
That's like a grunge band.
that just sounds like after a bully went through.
So anyways, there are...
Bam, bam, bam.
I just love the soon.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the internet memes. Soon.
Soon.
That's why she was beautiful, because now he's hoping she comes back.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to slam the door in your face.
I honestly, I just realized if we were sticking up with the trend that we should have been sticking up with, I imagine that she probably sounded like Kratos.
Yeah.
Going to the,
That would be.
Can I use the phone, sir?
May I enter the
If a
premises?
tiny 6
I
foot
need to do
platinum
so.
woman talk like that, I think I'd be a little unsettled.
More unsettled than the young tiny boy that was in the earlier story?
Probably, because I think I can't think of a kid Chuck.
A 6 foot tall blonde woman?
I probably could.
Yeah.
What I love is the kids who got picked up by the car and there's a man in a black suit. Like,
Yeah. Stole you, man. Slenderman. It's
Anyways.
all coming around.
anyways, there are thousands of these stories, and I'm not going to go into all of them. I do have a link for like a ton of them, but we're a little over an hour now, and
Are we? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
man, because that was... Some
This
of
is
these
so
were
much
fucking
fun.
hilarious.
this is so much fun. All right, let's do one more.
Yes!
I just like how fear boner applies to every single one of these.
Fear boner.
And jazzing.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. This one's called The Midnight Caller. It almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. She was upright on the bed where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter, so they're sharing a bed, staring at our door like an unknown stranger was out there rummaging about. I thought she was freaking out over a house noise. We'd thought we'd had her only for about 3 months and she was still a puppy. It could have been anything. Our roommate, a creak from the house settling, an awning moving outside. The awning's moving outside in the breeze.
Jazzing.
Yeah. I wasn't too concerned initially. I decided that the best bet would be to open the door, show her there was nothing there. It sounds a bit silly, but it's what we like to do for our daughter when she gets scared. I figured it would work for the puppy too, because puppies and kids are exactly the same. I opened the door, and she raced to the front door. She stood there snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl from a puppy.
Yeah. It's a cat now.
Yeah. You sound like that cat from Looney Tunes, like the little kitten. It's all like that with the bulldog.
Oh, yeah, where it's where like it falls in love with the bulldog and it kneads on him, and he's like,
yeah, that's what you sound like right now. Yeah. So I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate blocking the doorway. Planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. The second my hand reached the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumped towards me. It sounded like she just wants to go out for a pee.
Yeah.
When I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid of backing down. As her mannerisms changed, so did mine. I wasn't calm anymore. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I have been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread, which are pretty well the same thing.
Well, what has that?
I guess. I looked.
Oh, really? I actually didn't know much about what the word dread meant.
Yeah, to me, dread and fear are basically the same thing. But I guess it is dread has an expectation. There's something going to happen, no matter what.
It's going to get worse. So it's not that you can't have both at the same time.
Yeah. So I looked through the peephole, and I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside were two kids. One was just a smidgen shorter than me. He didn't look much younger. I'm 21, and he looked to be 16 or 17. Sorry, she looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde. She wore it long, around mid-back, long and thin, blunt bangs. This is a lot of fucking details coming out from a people. Like,
man, you can see so much from a people.
She wore jeans and a light wash that was popular right now, and a thin-looking olive-colored pullover-style hoodie. They all wear hoodies.
Well, yeah, because it hides the eyes, right?
She held the hand of a small girl. She held the hand of a small girl who looked to be about 3 or 4. What?
No, it's well. I'll explain in
the same style jeans and a button-down ivory cardigan. A smaller one looked at the floor shyly, but had the same shade of hair tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to the one my daughter has, as was their style of dress. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off. At this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't hushed the dog or grumbled or anything. I hadn't turned on any of the lights. These kids had no indicators that I was at the door. The older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, and accentless. She held her head tilted downwards, and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, "We have to use your phone." I stood frozen in fear.
Accentless?
Yeah, accentless. I'm guessing this is, that this one is from the UK because of the way that some of the words are spoken.
Well, also T, but, accentless is a stupid.
Also, it could mean like the tone is just constantly the same because we accent how we speak.
Oh, okay, that kind of accent.
Yeah,
weird phrasing.
So, how did she know I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and there is when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs before. They were black, or midnight blue, or a dark, dark purple. They were otherworldly. She said, "Our mother is worried." As someone who has been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I've never been one to believe in things as a staunch atheist and skeptic. When it comes to the paranormal, I had written off many of the ghost stories from my friends and families as eager to tell their tales. I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and black-eyed kid.
Kids,
Yeah, that's what I've got. There was no questioning what was right in front of me. I did not answer her. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door, Lucy still cowering on my ankles, and she kept talking. Just let us in to use your phone. I took another step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite. When I took that second step back, she became commanding, almost hostile. We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have just broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone? Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backwards. Though something inside me seemed to be pulling me back towards the door, it wasn't a physically pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. I got to my room, covered the windows, locked the door, and sat in the dim light of the nightlight. I heard her call me back to the door once more, then go quiet. I didn't go to sleep for that night. I haven't slept right since. I know reading about them that black BEKs, so black-eyed kids, can't just come in without permission. I know they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be the exception. When I told my husband, he said it was probably just a dream. He is telling me to forget it, but this lingering feeling of sadness, this dread over the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door. That one wasn't easy to make fun of. So
no, that was actually a kind of a cool story.
Yeah, these ones are actually very well written.
I think there's one power that we forgot to comment on with these kids is that they have an aura of command.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. The feeling of compulsion.
Yeah. It's not strong enough that it's not like the person has to do it, but
you start unconsciously doing it.
Yeah.
As soon as you think about it, you're aware of it, and you can pull back.
Well, that's just it.
Is suggestion really rather than compulsion?
Yeah, I was almost going to say impulse.
Yeah, like for instance, if you didn't focus on the fact that you're so afraid or feeling that dread, you would impulsively open the door. Like, your impulse would go to that. And they seem to try and get you into conversation to distract you to open the door. Because, when that guy was telling a story earlier, he was talking about how his hand was starting to reach for the door. And he was getting ready to unlock the door when he realized what he was doing. And it was while they were engaged in conversation. Mm-hmm. So
I bet they rarely go after people with ADHD.
Oh my god.
Amazing.
just because the conversation will be going so fast, and B, we're always hyper aware of everything. It's like, oh, what am I doing with my head?
Yeah. What the fuck is up with your eyes, man?
30-year-old B.
It's really jazzing me up.
Jesus.
All right. Well, that was a good creepy tale to end it.
Is this just a random folklore, or did you find it from Creepypasta?
So I've known about black-eyed children for a long time. I've heard stories about them. You can find tons of YouTube videos where they narrate stories and stuff like that. But
the black-eyed children narrate stories?
Yeah, black-eyed children narrate it. No, for instance, B-Busta does it, and that's a shout out to B-Busta. But B-Busta does do
B-Busta.
Yeah, it's an Australian guy. But he's done stories on them, a lot of but they mainly get them from Reddit. So somebody writes the tale on Reddit and creepy encounters, and then he reads them out. But I knew about them from actually that 2013 video, because I saw the video years ago, which is why I have a hard time understanding why I can't find the video now.
Because of YouTube's ridiculous, absurd algorithm.
Yeah. However, Nuke's Top 5, which is another shout out to a YouTube channel that does videos. But what I mean is he does camera footage. Yeah, I know, YouTube videos.
Another YouTube channel that does videos.
Yeah.
As opposed to,
Well, we do audio, so. But what I mean is he does, camera footage, well, I guess TikTok would still count as camera footage, but somebody's cell phone, GoPro, even CCTV footage. So he'll play them for like paranormal things, and there's actually one woman who has been harassed by a black-eyed child, and she started setting up like Ring cameras and stuff and you actually catch a moment where the light goes out on her porch, and then when it comes back on, there's a black-eyed kid sitting, like just standing there looking at the Ring camera, ringing the doorbell, and then after 3 rings and nobody responding, the light goes back out and the child disappears. So, and it's almost like a flickering, so it's like a and then goes out, and it's all on a Ring camera. So if they edited the footage, that's great editing, but she provides updates all the time and stuff like that. So there's been videos like that on his and on like other channels that do the same thing with like with like footage that people provide. So they're kind of neat to watch.
Of these sightings, what kind of areas are they primarily seen in?
As I said, it's a lot of North American, but I think that's mainly because like Asian cultures don't normally talk about them or say much about them.
Well, they also have their own spirits that they're dealing with. I'm sure the BEKs are just over. They're like trying to get into the culture, and they're like, "Oh shit, no, there's too much here."
And even the way they're described, like I have not seen I hate to say it, like because it sounds racist, but I have not seen a single report of any one of them being of any other ethnicity than Caucasian. Like. It doesn't seem like they're...
Yeah, they don't have the time for this shit.
They all seem like that one... Like, the only difference between them is that, like, the initial story talks about how one was kind of olive skin, and the other one was pale, and one had brown hair. Like, the olive skin one had brown hair, while the other one had, like, red hair. Mm-hmm. And it's... But a lot of the things that come forward are that they are very pale, and they are, like... Most of the time it's blonde or very dark hair. So
is it? So it's mostly urban settings, though, right?
It's not really rural, which it would be a lot creepier if it was rural. If it was a rural area, like you lived on a farm and then they knocked on your door.
Yeah.
And I think that's if they're real, that would be intentional because they're trying to get in, and their story seems really illogical. If they're like, "Well, we just need to use your phone."
Exactly. You would want. To be in like a cityscape where there's a larger social aspect.
Yeah.
Because then you're more likely to be let in by certain social norms, right? Like they clearly are seen as children for the sake that people are like, oh shit, I need to take care of children.
The problem is rarely if someone knocks on your door, you just open the door. Because it's a 20-minute walk. If you took the time to get there, you need help. The other part is you know everybody, right?
Yeah.
I don't think
also, people who are in rural areas are more, they're more off-put by encounters with other people as well, because there's not as many neighbors. Like, for instance, my uncle lives on a farm that's like, his closest neighbor is like 2-3 miles down the road. So if there's a bunch of kids wandering around, he's going to be very off-put by the fact of why the fuck are these kids here?
And not to mention, there's also a chance that they're one of them farmers with a shotgun.
Yeah. Yeah, they may not. He may answer the door in a very different way.
Yeah.
Hey, we just need to come inside. No, you fucking don't.
You fucking kids. Get out of my area.
I told the last one. I told the last one.
Air guitar.
I
bust out rock band.
Yeah.
I need to use your phone.
It's funny because when you make that voice, it sounds like the Incubus voice that Dan Cummings does when he's talking about BDSM. Slave.
All right. Well, I'm going to call it, because that was a long thing. I had a few questions there at the end, but I thought other people would be interested in those. That's our episode. As usual, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and rate and review, and all that good stuff. Plus, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BAChaosJar. Plus, you can follow me on Twitter ask me a bunch of random questions at I'm glad you asked _ You can follow us on Facebook at Chaos Jar Podcast. We did it! And lastly, you can become a patron on patreon.com/chaosjar. And if you put in some money, well, you'll get early access to our bonus episodes referred to as The Overflow. And we also have The Overflow posted on patreon.com/chaosjar, so go check it out. And don't forget to follow our YouTube channel because, well, maybe your friends aren't very good with the podcast scenario. Boom, send them to YouTube. Way easier, way simpler. Sounds good. All this in the show notes below. Feel free to like and subscribe. I said that already. You know what?
Rate, review, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Y'all have a good night.